One of the most talked about subjects after Star Wars Episode VII, The Force Awakens, was the question of Rey's parents. To me, there's only one logical choice, and that's the subject of today's Idea of the Day. Ever since the release of Star Wars Episode VII, The Force Awakens, there has been an awful lot of talk about who Rey's parents are. And to me, there's only one logical choice, and that choice, as if it's a surprise to some, is Luke Skywalker. There is absolutely no doubt in my mind that he is her father. And let me break it down as to the reasons why. First and foremost, we'll start with the most simplest part. There are a lot of pieces to the Star Wars universe. There's the original trilogy, there's the prequel trilogy, and now we have this next trilogy. Now, they also have the newer movies. There's the other cartoon series, other animations, games, all the other stuff, books. These trilogies are set apart from all those because of one common thread. They are meant to tell the story of the Skywalker lineage, starting with Anakin in the prequels, Luke in the secondary, and it has to continue that if these are not part of an anthology, and Luke is not just a cameo, that this is a continuation of the Skywalker lineage. Sorry, that's not the only reason, but let's leave that as one piece of evidence. Second piece of evidence, the single biggest piece of evidence, is when you watch the flashback or the Force vision scene after Rey touches Luke's lightsaber, we see images of past and present. What we see there, if you look at it a little bit at a time, and I can put some pictures here to remind you of some of the stuff that was in there, but here's what we know. We know that Luke was training a new breed of Padawan, new Jedi students. We know that they traditionally are very young. That would be about the age that Rey was, and Rey was one of those students. Kylo, we know, was one of the students, but he was a bit older. He was old enough to be obviously a little more powerful and to fall to the dark side, which he did. And we know that that's what happened, that Kylo destroyed all the students, the school, everything, and destroyed it all. So what happens here? If you really take it step by step, Luke, we presume, had a wife at some point. We also presume that when Kylo destroyed all the Padawan, that his wife was among those that were killed. But for whatever reason, and let's go back to that Force vision. In that Force vision, we see essentially a bunch of dead bodies in the rain, a bunch of people, including Kylo, essentially killing them all. So who was he killing? Well, my assumption here is he was killing all the Padawan, and that is the scene where he did in fact kill all of the students, young as they were, and presumably Luke's wife. So at that moment, Kylo destroys all the students, except he couldn't kill, or wouldn't kill, Rey. And we do see that in the Force vision. We do see the red sword basically in her eyes, because she's watching that event, and it's coming from her eyes. She's seeing that he is about to kill her, but he doesn't. He did not want to kill his own cousin, his uncle's daughter. So he needed to hide this. He needed to hide the fact that he couldn't do it. We know he needed to. We know later that he just didn't. He hadn't made that full transition to the dark side. We know that from Snoke's conversation with him about what he must do in terms of killing his own father. He didn't have it in him originally to kill family, to kill blood. He saved Rey. He put Rey in an obscure place, a place where nobody would look, a place that his own father didn't know about or care about, and he certainly didn't go there to look for his own Millennium Falcon. So it's an obscure place. So he walked away with presumably a clear conscience, could not kill his cousin, Rey, but he put her someplace where he, in his mind, knew that she could at least be safe, live her life out as a scavenger, etc., etc. Her memory had been presumably erased, most likely through some sort of force. He probably waved his hands and did some sort of a magical thing. So she was young, of course, too, but he erased her memory from that. Or maybe she simply blacked out of it because of all the trauma of the event. So it all came back to her in that Force vision. Luke, at that moment, presumed all the Padawans dead, presumed his wife dead, and presumed that, it was all over. And unfortunately, it seems to be the Jedi thing. When there's only one Jedi or a small number of Jedi, they go into hiding. Obi-Wan did it. Yoda did it. So he went into hiding. All right. So you fast forward and you wonder, well, why didn't Han recognize her? Why didn't Leia recognize her? Well, the last time they saw her, she was a little girl. She was very small. She was young. So it really didn't hit them who she was. And I'm breaking this down the way I am because I also want to draw attention to the fact that some of the other choices people have said, like one that she's a reincarnation of Anakin, that's not likely to happen. It would be a little too far-fetched. Some saying that it would be Obi-Wan's daughter, but the age thing is just, forget that. Don't even go there. And then you have Han and Leia's daughter, but they would have known about that. They would have talked about that. It would have been something there. So to me, the only logical choice is Luke. So Luke is definitely Rey's father. And that's going to make episode 8 really spectacular because now he essentially finds out at the end of episode 7 that she's alive. And of course that drama never gets played out verbally, but you could see it. There's an intensity going on there. It wasn't just like, oh, somebody's coming to me with my sword. He, at that moment, realized, if anything, he would recognize his own daughter's eyes. And now, things are going to get really interesting because she's going to start learning. Kylo is going to get stronger. And of course, Luke is probably much stronger than he was when we last saw him in Return of the Jedi. Except Luke is most likely going to be torn about what to do. And I don't think he's worried about whether she'll get killed. I think that's the least of his problems because she could kick some ass. We saw that. And I presume he knows how powerful she is. He raised her at a young age. He must have saw signs. He probably didn't use midi-chlorian tests, but he knew she had force powers, which is why he started to train her in the first place. I think Luke's torment in this movie is going to be fear that whatever it is that made the Skywalkers strong, it also drew them towards the dark side. I think Luke's biggest fear in episode 8 and presumably 9 is going to be fear that she too will follow the Skywalker curse of being seduced by the dark side. And that's going to make episode 8 more or less a chase for Kylo and Snoke to try to lure her in. Maybe Kylo's going to want to ditch Snoke, and because there's always two, and bring her to the dark side. He did say to her, "Let me complete your training. You don't know what you can do." The point is, he said this because he knew who she was at that moment. And again, this reinforces my theory, and I think it's more than a theory. What do you think? I'd love to hear what you think in the comments. Hope you like this. Thanks for watching. All right, so that's today's Idea of the Day. I hope you liked it. If you visit ideaoftheday.com, you'll see a new one every day. Every day. Yeah, some of them don't suck. And don't forget to subscribe. And you can see them here every day. Brand new one. And some of my videos don't suck either.